the Dark Knight. Well, later on that night, Bruce Wayne had went to bed. He was sound asleep, and there he had a nightmare. He had a nightmare that he went to his parents' grave like he does every year for the anniversary of their death, to put flowers in the huge Wayne crypt in the cemetery. This crypt housed the remains of every Wayne family member since his great-great-great-grandfather, Zachary Wayne, was buried there, while his parents are the most recent additions to the crypt. Well, in the dream, he goes to put flowers on his mom's tomb. Then he notices something leaking out the wall, some black oily substance. He runs his fingers through it to see what it was. He couldn't make out what it was at all, when all of a sudden, a creature had busted forth from the wall of the crypt. The creature looked like some giant demonic bat monster that was coming after them as it let out a blood-curdling scream as it reached out to grab Bruce Wayne in the dream. Then Bruce Wayne wakes up from his dream screaming. He looks at his bedroom. It was dark, except for the bright moonlight that was shining in. He said to himself, just another of that damn nightmares. Oh, God. Oh, man. It was not the first nightmare that was plaguing Bruce Wayne. It was a series of nightmares that had been plaguing Bruce Wayne for weeks. And it was the same dream over and over. That monster busting forth through the crypt walls to attack him. And could it be a subconscious thing? The death of his parents and that traumatic childhood experience he also had years before then when he fell into that mine shaft with all the bats that flew out after him? It had to be. That's the answer he had in his mind. He gets up from his bed and he walks downstairs. He walks downstairs and sits in the living room of the house. He was wondering why these damn dreams are plaguing him, when all of a sudden he heard the flapping of something in the living room. Bruce looks up to see what it was. He runs to the end of the living room and turns on the main lights. And lo and behold, it was a bat flying around on the ceiling. How did it get in the house? He didn't know. But it was starting to creep him out. But then it dawned on him. Could it be? It had to be the nightmare he had about a giant demonic bat creature attacking him. And now this? Could it be an omen? An omen from his parents? To do something? Like, to get back at the criminals that are destroying the city? It had to be. Suddenly Bruce Wayne realized he had an epiphany. He had to do something about the rampant crime in the city. Someone had to. Over the years, Gotham City had just fallen further and further into decay, as government corruption in pretty much every level of the city was causing crime to be out of control. The city was actually in the chokehold of one man, Carmine Falcone, one of the last true mob bosses. He had a chokehold on the city. He had judges, he had lawyers, he had policemen in his wallet. And it was just a trickle-down effect that was affecting every part of the city. And someone had to clean it up. The law was too corrupt now. Someone who could use fear as their ally. Someone that has the resources to do this. Now Bruce Wayne sat on the couch in the living room and he began to think how it was going to get done. Well, the next morning he was back at Wayne Enterprises. Lucius Fox was giving him the promised tour of the Applied Science Department. He brings Bruce to a trunk. He opens the trunk and reveals what seemed to be some sort of suit in there. It was completely gray with a black brief over it. Bruce asked, "What is this?" Lucius said, "This is a prototype mobile infantry combat suit." Well, it has two layers. The first layer is a bi-weave carbon fiber. It makes this very resistant to most low caliber firearms, and a little resistant, but not that much, to bladed weapons. The second layer underneath this is Tauron, a rival material to Kevlar. They're pretty much the same property. This second layer, he said, is really for the strength enhancement the suit gives you. The Tauron is threaded and knit very tightly to form what looks like artificial muscles. A gentle current is applied to cause constriction, just like what would happen when you use your muscles. So it would give you a little extra strength to lift heavy objects, or a little extra strength to really take out somebody with a punch or a kick. Lucius continues to explain that the gray color comes from the chemical used to conceal the heat signature of the wearer from infrared equipment. Bruce asked him the proverbial question, so why didn't the U.S. Armed Forces buy this? Lucius said it was plain and simple. They didn't want to pay $300,000 a unit. Bruce like, yeah, I could see that. Then he took Bruce over to another chest. He opened that chest up, and in there was a long piece of cloth. It was weird looking, but when Bruce felt it, it felt almost like leathery. Lucius went on to explain, "Oh, Mr. Wayne, this is a special cloth called memory cloth." He took a piece of wire that was near it, hooked it up to a battery, and then touched the cloth with the wire. Suddenly, the cloth raised and hardened. Bruce felt it's like, man, it's really hard. Then Lucius pulled the wire away, and then the cloth went back to normal. He says, gentle electrical current will cause this thing to harden. Bruce is like, wow. So why was this not put into production? Asked Bruce. Lucius said, cost of it. Of course, he said. Bruce is like, well, it seems like everything was too costly to produce. Oh well, said Bruce. What else is in here? Well, Lucius closes the chest with the memory cloth and takes him to farther into the department and showed him a car engine under cover. He pulls the cover off, and there was a beautiful looking car engine there with a transmission. Then Lucius went on to explain, well, Mr. Wayne, this is our prototype high-performance propane engine. We partnered up with VW to help them make an alternative fuel racing engine. He went on to explain the result, Mr. Wayne, was this W8 engine. It's taken design cues from the VR6 engines that VW makes. We made two VR4 engines, put them together, and then created this W8 engine. The result was a small, compact, fuel-efficient 8-cylinder engine that runs on propane. It's a 5.0-liter engine with EGR, or emissions gas recirculation system, high performance self-tuning fuel injection system, and to top it off, she has quadra valve like the old Lamborghinis and quad cam. So the result is a little compact engine that produces 700 horsepower. Bruce was like, wow. And the transmission, he went on to ask. Lucius says the transmission is our own little next-gen version of the old Porsche Speedomatic transmission, clutchless transmission or semi-automatic, whichever you want to choose to call it. 5-speed, easy to shift. Then Bruce asked Lucius, so what happened to the car itself? Lucius went on to explain, well, we built a prototype car, succeeded, then we just pretty much dismantle it and reuse the parts for other things, and I kept the engine and the transmission mothballed down here. Wow, Bruce said. It's a shame that the car is still not intact. Bruce was thinking in his mind when he said that, there's got to be some way I could use this engine. I'm sure there's something I could put this engine in. It'll give me a big advantage over other streetcars in the city and police vehicles. Then Bruce asked, wait a minute, Lucius, why propane? Well, Lucius explains, it's easy. When you think alternative fuel, most people don't think of propane. And the number one reason why we chose propane, because in cold climates like this in the wintertime, you know the nightmare that it is to try to start your car. Well, propane fuel car eliminates that problem. It starts right up in the coldest of winters, even up here. So that's why we chose propane for the alternative fuel. Plus, it's easy to produce, and it's very clean. Plus, with the EGR system, it really reduces the amount of very little CO2 that the exhaust from a propane engine produces. Then Bruce went on to ask Lucius, "Well, what about the military shell company that this company has?" Lucius says, "Well, Mr. Wayne, that's easy. Your grandfather wanted to have Wayne Enterprises get military contracts to produce, weapons and technology for the armed services. Well, around the start of the Vietnam War, Wayne Enterprises scored military contracts for this stuff, and not wanting to get the Wayne name, involved with the military or the company, he created 6 shell companies that its sole purpose was to design and distribute things for the armed services under these names. Long story short, after the war was over, we had 6 shell companies, and when your father took over in '83, he decided to consolidate everything into one company. He didn't get around to it until the late '80s, and when he signed on it, unfortunately, he. You know what happened, said Lucius. Bruce says, "Yes, I'm aware what happened." Then my predecessor, Mr. Earl, decided to oversee it, but when he retired, I took over. I finished it, so now we have one shell company that does all the military stuff. It's called Militech. It's really very small. Maybe a small construction crew, a few workers, a manager, and several sales reps. So that's pretty much it. And a lot of the prototypes that these shell companies produced over the years are down here. Bruce then says to Lucius, "Neat." When Bruce turns around, he sees this giant device. It was huge and mound shaped. And he asks Lucius, "What is that?" Lucius says, "Well, Mr. Wayne, that is our prototype hydrogen power generator. It's a power generator designed to generate power through hydrogen fuel cells. And it works." Then Bruce asks Lucius, "And how come we're not using it?" Lucius says, "We are using it. This is just a prototype. There's another model that's somewhere on this property that's used to power the building when there's blackouts. So whenever there's a blackout, this acts as it acts as an emergency power generator. But since it could generate a lot of electricity, since it's a power generator, we're not regulated emergency power. The entire building can run when the power's out in the entire section of the city." Well, the days went on, and Bruce Wayne was exploring the family history of Wayne Manor. He learned through reading on the books that Wayne Manor was built on top of an old coal mine. The very house of itself was built on the mine shaft, which was used to get men down to the mine below. Plus, he also learned that that hole that he fell through as a kid was another service shaft to lower supplies down to the mines. Well, it was very interesting. According to the book, the mine went dry quickly in the 1840s. So his great 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 grandfather Solomon Wayne decided to build his new house on top of the old mines. Then afterwards, he read that Solomon Wayne's brother Silas Wayne was involved with the Underground Railroad and abolitionism, and used the old mine to hide runaway slaves down below the house so they could seek their freedom up north, which was very interesting. But then that means there had to have been an entrance somewhere in this house to get to the old mines below. So Bruce poured through older books and looked at some of the older blueprints of Wayne Manor. And there, in one of the oldest books, dated around before the Civil War, 1860, he saw blueprints for the house that had stuff that was not in the later blueprints, namely the elevator shafts used to get down to the mines. Those shafts still were there, but the house was built right over. And where was the shaft located at? Right above the drawing room. Bruce was like, my goodness. And he looked at the plans, and it showed where the elevator was located at in the drawing room. Bruce quickly slapped the book shut and went downstairs to the drawing room. As soon as he went into the drawing room, he looked around. There was nothing out of the ordinary in the drawing room, but he saw where the blueprints showed where the elevator would be, right behind a bookshelf. Well, he entered the drawing room looking for the bookshelf. He found the bookshelf, and he began feeling the bookshelf for any secret switches, mechanism, anything to open it, but there was nothing. But he put his fingers in one end of the bookshelf, and his fingers fitted in perfectly, so it was something you had to forcefully push. So Bruce Wayne mustered up every strength in his body to push the heavy bookshelf to the side, revealing what he saw in the blueprints, the secret passage. As he pushed the bookshelf to one side, then Bruce Wayne screams, "Eureka! I found it!" He goes right into the little secret shaft, and there it was, an old elevator. Wow, Bruce said. This is like something out of Indiana Jones. So he goes onto the elevator, and he's like, I wonder if this thing even still works. He pulls a lever, and all of a sudden, the elevator started going. He's like, holy crap, it actually works. The elevator went down the long shaft through bedrock and everything until it landed on its destination in the old mines. Wow, Bruce said. It's beautiful. Luckily for Bruce, he carried some flashlights to light the way in case he did find something. So he turns on the flashlight and starts exploring the cave beneath Wayne Manor. Bruce Wayne walks around and looks at the cave. It was huge. The the coal deposits were long gone, but the cave was now just still there. He saw some leftover mining equipment there, old wheelbarrows, some pickaxe, and other things to break rock with, and even an old hat. He wandered around the cave until he reached what looked like an underground lake, and by that lake there was a beautiful waterfall. Bruce Wayne said with amazement, my God, it's so beautiful, and it's underneath this old house. So he went exploring further and further until he encountered something that was very familiar to him. It was bats. Oh, definitely bats. It was their home. It was their home, all right, said Bruce. And there were thousands of them in there, flying all over the place. But yet, he was amazed. He was no longer scared of them like he was when he was a child. But he was still a little cautious towards them. He was kind of scared they would try to bite him. I think it's a natural fear for anybody, Bruce said. So he kept on exploring the cave until he saw a light at the end of the cave. He's like, I wonder where that light is coming from, said Bruce. Well, he went to where the light was. It was an exit, but this exit led to an old back road that seemed to be long forgotten. Bruce figured that this road was probably used by the miners to take whatever they found and, by horse and carriage, take the coal to the to where it was going to get processed to. His exploration of the cave led him further into another section where he found another exit of the cave. This one led to the ocean outside by the rock cliffs that the house was overlooking. He said to himself, wow, this place is amazing, and I think this place can be used as a base of operation. Well, Bruce Wayne had begun his quest to become the vigilante that was going to clean up the city. Thus, he began by forging Lucius Fox's signature on orders to build a secret base in the caves beneath Wayne Manor with Militech. The orders read, new orders from the U.S. government: build secret base of operations beneath in cave system in Gotham Heights. Well, it would work, and soon in October, Militech's construction crew began working and building what they thought was a secret base of operations for the U.S. military, but in reality, it was going to be Batman's or Bruce Wayne's secret base of operations. Then he took the prototype infantry combat suit, he took the memory cloth, and then he took a prototype air powered grappling gun, which had a 320-pound test limit, perfect to grapple places. So he took all those things and he began to use the Militech name to purchase other things, including ballistic rubber and certain technologies, microprocessors, and even a military grade PDA. And he found within Applied Sciences prototype plutonium batteries. Bruce said these batteries can come in handy. Then he also took a few other little bits of things here and there from Applied Sciences, including a utility belt. Well, it was a 6 month journey for his project as he tired away shaping things up for his crusade against crime. He also acquired another thing from Applied Science: the prototype Starlight lenses, which would allow its wearers to see in the dark and also pick up heat signatures of anti-personnel, something that would come in handy for Bruce Wayne out on the field. Well, the months dragged on. Eventually, New Year dawned. It was 1999. And then he began working through the new year in his career as an intern in Wayne Enterprises and trying to become the crime fighter he wanted to be. By March, his little base of operations beneath the Wayne Manor, or as he christened it, the cave, was going to be complete in April. And it was time to get some other things out the way that he needed. So he looked at a few magazines and he ordered several computer cabinets that he needed for his computing needs and several Sun Microsystems Ultra 60 workstations. They had a 64-bit RISC microprocessors for CPUs, which was needed in order to have a supercomputer that could match with the 64-bit processing supercomputers out there. Afterwards, it was time to get the car ready, and he needed a new car. So he turned to the garage in the manor. The garage was almost a car museum full of exotic cars and beautiful other sports cars that were there, collected by his grandfather and his father. And there was one car that stuck out in particular he always liked, maybe something that could be easily modified: his dad's 1974 De Tomaso Pantera. It was a beautiful, slick black color, but there was only one problem: the engine was busted. He remembered years ago that his dad redlined the car's engine and blew the engine. But unfortunately, his dad's death prevented the car from getting fixed. But now Bruce Wayne was going to fix this car. He was going to do more than fix it. He was going to modify it. This was going to be the car of his alter ego. So he needed a new engine, and he knew where to get that new engine from. Applied Sciences, that prototype W8 propane engine, was going to fit perfectly into the engine compartment of the De Tomaso Pantera, and plus the compact size of the engine means there's going to be more room for whatever he needed to put in the engine bay, maybe nitrous tanks. Who knew what he was going to be used for? But it was a work in progress. Over the weeks, Bruce Wayne got the W8 engine out of Applied Science, and he began modifying the car. He pretty much stripped it down to the frame, and by the time he was done modifying the car had the following features: bulletproof, fireproof body, reinforced bumpers back and front for ramming, bulletproof, fireproof tires. The glass of the car, the windshield, the windows, and everything else was replaced with ballistic plexiglass to make it bulletproof. And the modified engine replaced the busted Cleveland 358 and nitrous to give it an extra speed boost. And inside, he put an onboard computer. He put new ECUs for the car's control system, RC mode, the new 5-speed semi-automatic transmission, and he replaced the standard analog gauges like speedometer, tachometer, fuel gauge with all digital ones. And he also put in a new radio that not only picked up local stations but picked up CB, police band, and police band. Other additions to the new car were a LCD display screen and weapons. The front part of the car had gun ports that had 45 caliber rounds that could be shot from a trigger on the steering wheel. Also, for rear defenses, it had smoke screen and caltrips and oil slicks to lose guys who were trying to chase him. So it was a heck of a car, and he was finished before May with it. Also, in April, the new cave hideout was finished completely. Now he went down below and he installed his makeshift supercomputer, which was running on a special Unix operating system. It was complete. Everything was ready. Everything was ready for his crusade against crime. By now, he just needed one more person to help him. Someone he needed to trust, and he only knew one man to trust. So he decided to let Lucius Fox in on his secret. By now, Lucius was wondering who authorized this construction project and the disappearances of certain items from Applied Sciences. He had a theory who it could be, but he didn't want to think that Bruce Wayne would do that. Well, Bruce Wayne comes up to him one morning. He asked the proverbial question to Lucius Fox. What do you think about Gotham City and the high crime rate in the city? Well, Lucius looks at Bruce and says, well, Mr. Wayne, it's a shame that Gotham City is now synonymous with crime in the United States. And I respect the police, but unfortunately the police department is so corrupt now, I think there's only a few good policemen left. I wish somebody would clean up the city. Well, Bruce, hearing what he said, is like, you mean like a vigilante? Lucius like, well, you don't hear me endorsing a vigilante, but I don't know. It's getting to the point where it's getting to be unsafe to leave your own house now. Bruce Wayne says, I understand where you're coming from. I have something to show you, and I have something to confess, he says. Bruce Wayne arrived soon to his home. Lucius was following him in another car. The two men exit the car, go up the stairs to the manor, and come inside. Aunt Harriet and Dr. Tompkins were there, and it's like, oh, Lucius Fox, what a pleasant surprise to see you here. How are you doing? Said Dr. Tompkins. Lucius said, I'm here on a little business with with Bruce Wayne. Miss Harriet Cooper said, oh, well, hopefully Mr. Wayne doesn't keep you busy. I'm cooking dinner, and you're free to, stay for dinner, she said. Lucius said, well, thank you, Mrs. Cooper. I'll think about it when we discuss something with Bruce Wayne. Soon, Bruce and Lucius enter the drawing room. Bruce closes the door behind him and says, well, Lucius, what do you think of this new bronze bust of William Shakespeare? Lucius was puzzled and was like, this is why you brought me here, Mr. Wayne, to show me a new bronze bust of William Shakespeare that you bought? Bruce said, it's not just to show you this, but to show you something else. Bruce reaches over with his hands and pulls the head back of the bronze bust of William Shakespeare, revealing a little switch. Bruce flicks the switch, and a little yellow LED light turns on. Suddenly, Lucius hears the sound of a door sliding open behind him. Lucius turns behind him, and it was the bookcase. It was gone. It looked like it was hiding a secret passage. Now he saw an elevator. Bruce says, "Come, Lucius, let's go into the secret elevator down to a project I've been working on." So Bruce and Lucius go in the elevator, and Bruce presses a button. The elevator door closes, and it begins to ride down. Finally, the elevator stops. The door opens, and the two men emerge into the completed Batcave. The construction crew really did a marvelous job putting metal platforms, walkways, and an area where he could put the computer at. Lucius was like, "My God, Mr. Wayne, what did you do down here?" Bruce says, "Well, Fox, remember when I said about the vigilante thing? Well, I hope to be that person," he says. Bruce went on to explain his plans and everything, and how he needed Fox's help in this. Lucius says, "Wayne, I don't know if I could support illegal activity like this." Bruce says, "Listen, Lucius, it's something I have to do. I'm sorry. I have to do this. I have to do this." Then he goes on to show Lucius the nearly completed bat suit. Bruce Wayne had spray painted a bat emblem on the chest, and Lucius saw where all the missing parts went. The memory cloth was now going to serve as a cape, and the infantry combat suit was going to be his suit for his crime fighting. Bruce says, "Well, I have still some finishing touches to put on there. I'm just finding a suitable power supply for some of the electronic equipment I'm going to be carrying on me, like the Starlight lenses, the high gain antenna, and this little guy here," as he showed him. It was a throat microphone. "You put it on your throat and it disguises your voice," said Bruce. He puts it on his throat and began speaking with it.
"With this on, nobody will be able to recognize my voice, and plus it gives me a very ominous voice to strike fear into the criminals."
Then Bruce asked Lucius, "Would you help me, be my partner in this?" Lucius looked around and was amazed what Bruce Wayne pulled off under his nose. Then Lucius says, "All right, Mr. Wayne, I'm doing it because I'm doing it for the city. I'm doing it to see it cleaned up." So he extends his hands out to Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne grabs his hand, and both of them shake hands. Bruce says, "Thank you, Lucius, thank you." "I hear," said Bruce, "that you're a computer expert." Fox says, "Yes, I am." "Well, this computer here," as he points out, said Bruce, "uses 40 Ultra 60 motherboards to be used into a makeshift supercomputer. I'm having trouble getting that Unix system running on it. I need someone with your skill in computer to get it running right." Lucius looks at Bruce and says, "Don't worry, Mr. Wayne. Your computer's going to be running right, and it's going to be running strong." Well, that's the end of part 2. Like and subscribe. Coming soon will be part 3 of The Rise of the Dark Knight.